Everyone, welcome back. It's been a few minutes since I got a video up. As you can see behind me, that is my entire library of personal horror books that I have, and I wanted to show those to you today. So part of the issue I've been having is trying to get a good camera angle to be able to see the book on the shelf, as well as pull the book out and see the front cover, which is probably what most people want to see. That's what I would want to see. I'd want to see the front cover of the book because I love vintage 80s horror books. So I've been working with this quite a bit, and I haven't found the greatest method. I've probably done 15 or so videos trying to do it and deleted them all. So I'm gonna do my best. I may shift methods or tactics of how to film the books coming off of the shelf, so bear with me as we go through. It may change quite a bit. But this is gonna be a long video. I'm gonna show you all of them and do it all in one shot. So not one take, but you know what I mean, like do it all in one video. So let's get to it. All right, so I can't quite pull back enough to get the lower shelves, but that's the three main shelves that I have horror books on. I have other ones that haven't fit in there that I'll have to do separate, and I'm probably going to eliminate some of the books that are in here, remove them, sell them off, or just try to put them on a different shelf so that I can have all of them on one area. Or maybe I'll move all my Stephen King stuff to somewhere else. I don't know. That whole wall could be horror. Oh man, that'd be crazy. All right, so bear with me. I'm going to show you what I did here. So first up, I'm going to just do an overview of everything. I got a light right above me. I'm trying to shine in there so you could see it easier. And I have little figurines around. I'll move those when we get into looking at all the books, but here's the first shelf. Second one. Third one. Fourth. Fifth. I know some of it's out of focus. That's fine. I'll go through one by one here in a little bit. It's catching the faces of all the Funko Pops. Moving along. That one was really out of focus. So that is basically how it looks all the time. Now I have down here, I have two full shelves where they're doubled up, and a bunch more that usually go on that bottom shelf that I have in my room that I will bring back and put there before I go through and show every single book. So once again, try and back up here. That is the basic layout of my horror collection. All right, so I moved the figurines out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and move this front row out of the way. I'll show you real quick what I did here. I put VHS tapes behind there to raise up the second half so that I could see them and be able to still see the titles and the majority of the book while still having another row in front of it. So let me go ahead and move these, and I will grab the back row and start there. These are all in alphabetical order based on the author's last name. Scorpion by Katina Alexis. I actually have a new copy of this that I just found. I'm going to replace this copy. Black Christmas by Thomas Altman. C. Dean Anderson's Fiend. I Am Dracula also by C. Dean Anderson. Definitely need an upgraded copy on this one. The Amityville Horror by Jay Anson. Grave Markings by Michael Arnzen. Blood and Chrysanthemums, a vampire novel by Nancy Baker. Trisha Baker, Crimson Shadows. The Wasp Factory by Ian Banks. Twisted by Sue Hollister Barr. Time Double by Dick Barrett. Peregrine by William Bayer. Not my annotation there. Shock Lines by Warren Newton Beath. Dead Love by Donald Beeman, or Bayman. The Voice of Air by Evelyn Berkman. Well-known book, The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. The Cunning by Robert Bloch. And Firebug by Robert Bloch. Get in focus, there we go. Great embossing on that one. All right, I'll move to the bottom of the shelf. Psycho 2 by Robert Bloch. Strange Eons by Robert Bloch. The Scarf by Robert Bloch. I do also have Psycho, which is in my books that I have read this year so far. So it's in that collection, so it's not up here on the shelf. Stage Fright. And this is the reprinted Paperback from Hell. So this is not the original. It does have the same image on the cover. And it is very good book. So read that one last year, worth reading. Snowman, Norman Bogner. And by the way, that was with Garrett Boatman, excuse me. Snowman, Norman Bogner. This is a fun read. Also, it's a abominable snowman, yeti attacks kind of thing. And it is cheesy, but it is fun. Frozen, Jay Bonansinga. All right. Black Mariah, Jay Bonansinga. Definitely one I want to read. I've heard it's very good. Savage, Paul Borstein, or Borston. And this one has a crazy peekaboo cover. If you don't know, we call those peekaboo covers around here. My daughter came up with it. The Accursed by Paul Borston. The technical term, I believe, is die cut. Birth Pyre by Larry Brand. Hellborn by Gary Branner, author of The Howling, which I don't have. I don't have any of the Howling books. Quintana Roo by Gary Branner. Brain Eaters by Gary Branner. Cross Bearers by Mark Brelin. Unholy Child by Catherine Breslin. Wolf Song by Tracy Briery. The Gatherer by Owen Brooks. And I just love this cover. Something about it. It's great. And Soul Eater by Dana Brookins. Okay, I'm going to change up the lighting a little bit. This is shelf number 2. I'm going to move this first row of books and then we'll check out the back ones. Toomley's Walk by Crosland Brown. All right. The Accursed by G.S. Burdick. The Dogs by Robert Calder. Cool embossed. Okay. Cold Print by Ramsey Campbell. Dark Companions by Ramsey Campbell. Another great cover. Incarnate by Ramsey Campbell. Obsession by Ramsey Campbell. The Influence by Ramsey Campbell with a pretty dope peekaboo cover. Except for the stupid stamp that the bookstore put right there. I mean, really, of all the places? The Count of 11, Ramsey Campbell. The Doll Who Ate His Mother, Ramsey Campbell. The Face That Must Die, Ramsey Campbell. The Hungry Moon, pretty beat up copy, Ramsey Campbell. You can see there's a skull there, barely. And the last Ramsey Campbell I have, The Nameless. Next we have Hide and Seek, William Carney. And we have Bone Man by Lisa Cantrell. We also have Spore 7 by Clancy Carlisle. All right, let's get the bottom row. All right, first up we have Devil's Moon, William Carney. I think I've said this before, but it feels like a real missed opportunity that there's no peekaboo cover there. Total Recall, Peg Case and John Migliori. This one is on the inside cover of Paperback from Hell, featured on there. Cursed Be the Child, Mort Castle. Another Mort Castle, Moon on the Water. Legion of the Dead by Hugh B. Cave. Another Hugh B. Cave, Lucifer's Eye. Great embossed cover there. Another one by Hugh B. Cave, Disciples of Dread. Another by Hugh B. Cave, Shades of Evil. Another by Hugh B. Cave, The Lower Deep. Evan Chandler, Dying Light. Flowers of Evil, Robert Charles. No Blade of Grass, John Christopher. Carnivore, Leigh Clark. Simon Clark, Darkness Demands. These are some newer leisure horrors. Nailed by the Heart, Simon Clark. Cradle to the Grave, Susan Claudia. Excuse me, Cradle to Grave, not to the grave. And Douglas Clegg, Dark of the Eye. All right, the next shelf. I'm going to remove this bottom row here and we'll take a look at the top ones. All right, first up we have Mischief, Douglas Clegg. Then we have Naomi by Douglas Clegg. The Attraction by Douglas Clegg. The Halloween Man by Douglas Clegg. We have Mindbender by James Cohen and Peter Ruby. We have The Hampton Sisters by Bernard Connors with a peekaboo. Kind of cool. All right, we have Child's Play by Sal Conti. This is not what the movie is based off of, with Chucky. The first Movie Child's Play did not get a novelization. The second and third did, but not the first one. Midsummer by Matthew Costello. I love this cover. Captain Quad by Sean Costello. Wake Up Screaming by Vincent Courtney. John Coyne's Child of Shadows. John Coyne's Fury. John Coyne, The Legacy. The Searing by John Coyne. And finally, for that top shelf there, The Foretelling, Carolyn Crane. Bottom one first is The Black Death. This is by Gwyneth Cravens and John Marr. Very good cover and a valuable one. Joyride by Stephen Cry. The Abyss by Jerry Cunningham. Cool cover. I definitely want to read that one. That is on my high up on my list. Winter Scream by Chris Curry and Lisa Dean. If you haven't realized, I go by whatever the first author's last name is in the alphabetical stuff. No Blood Spilled, Les Daniels. Clean copy there. Blood Beast by Don DeAmasa. And I do want to get another copy of this at some point. It has a pretty good stain on there, but definitely readable. I see good stain on that side too. Doesn't bleed through much, but just someday down the line. Sins of the Flesh, Don Davis and Jay Davis. Quite possibly the best peekaboo cover there is. Trying to see how I can do this. Here we go. Ready? Peekaboo. That is one of the greatest peekaboo covers out there, I think. Great use of it. Shows off a lot from the cover side and completely wraps all the way around. Front cover, inside cover, and the flyleaf too, which is absolutely fantastic. All right, we got Bloodlust by Ron D. As you can also tell, I haven't spent any time taking off markings or stickers or residue like that. So some of these are just as is, straight from the store. Okay, next up we have Audrey Rose by Frank De Filita. Then we have For Love of Audrey Rose by Frank De Filita. We also have Golgotha Falls from Frank De Filita. I have another from Frank that didn't make it up here because I got it after the fact that I will show you coming up here in a bit. We have Santa Steps Out, Robert Devereaux. And I've heard this one's pretty, it's a fairy tale for grown-ups, it says, and I've heard it's pretty bad. All right, The Haven by G.R. Diamond. Fangs, William Dobson. Okay, The Nest by Gregory Douglas. Pretty good shape on this one. This is one that I read last year, really enjoyable. Highly recommend The Nest, worth the read if you like that 80s horror. The Unholy Smile with a unholy sticker placement by Gregory Douglas. So same author as The Nest. Okay, moving on to the next section. Okay, section number 4. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the first row again. Okay, first up we have Lifeblood by Lee Duigan. Not sure how to say that properly. All right. Flesh Stealer by Pauline Dunn. Great cover also. Simple, great, and it's embossed. Shaitan by Max Ehrlich. Jack Ellis, Seeing Eye. The Berserkers by Roger Elwood. The Pack by William Essex. All right, Red Dreams by Dennis Etchison. Fairly rare copy as well. The Fog by Dennis Etchison. This is the movie tie-in for John Carpenter's The Fog. All Heads Turn When Hunt Goes By, John Ferris. Minotaur by John Ferris. Sharp Practice by John Ferris. Shatter by John Ferris. The Axeman Cometh by John Ferris. Might be my favorite Ferris cover. This one too. The Captors, John Ferris. The Fury by John Ferris. The Fury and the Power by John Ferris. Get to the next row. Continuing on with John Ferris, we have The Fury and the Terror by John Ferris. I think all three of those, Fury, Fury Power, Fury Terror, all go together. The Uninvited by John Ferris. Wildwood by John Ferris. This one does have a pretty cool cover too. It's a bit scratched up, but still cool. Now we have In a Place Dark and Secret by Philip Finch. The Forever Children by Eric Flanders. Beat up copy. Deadly Harvest, Morgan Fields. Great cover. Love that cover. Wild Violets, Ruth Baker Field. The Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Jack Finney. And I go back and forth on the cover that I keep. I've cycled through different covers multiple times. This is the current one that I have. Hex by Robert Curry Ford. Fangs by Richard Forsythe. Great cover also. Rune by Christopher Fowler. The Palm Dome by Liz Fulton. I call this one the Winona Ryder cover. The Valley of Lights, or just Valley of Lights, excuse me, Stephen Gallagher. Lamia by Michael Gardine. The Angriff Technique, Tonita Gardner. That's cool. The webs are reflective. It's hard to tell with the light hitting it, but it's pretty cool actually. And Crucifax by Ray Garton. I've only read short stories by Garton, and I enjoyed them, so I'm looking forward to reading a novel at some point. Okay, move on to the next shelf. Okay, once again, we will remove the bottom row here, so we can take a look at the back row. So carrying on with Ray Garton, Nightlife, The Loveliest Dead, Christine Gentry, When Spirits Walk, Bloody Valentine by Stephen George, The Forgotten by Stephen George, Willard by Stephen Gilbert, Rattlers by Joseph Gilmore. Looking forward to reading that one too. Sephora Giron, not sure how to say that. This is Borrowed Flesh. Jeffrey Godin, Blood of the Wolf. Cool embossed cover on that one. Rough Beast, Gary Goshgarian. The Magician's Daughter, Marilyn Granbeck. Fire Mask by Charles Grant. For Fear of the Night by Charles Grant. Raven by Charles Grant. Riders in the Sky, Charles Grant. We have Charles Grant Stunts, and we have Charles Grant, The Long Night of the Grave. And this one is kind of broken. I need to fix it and repair that one at some point. All right, moving on to the next shelf. Still carrying on with Charles Grant, we have The Sound of Midnight. We have The Orchard. Something about this cover I love too. It's very simple, but it's so nice. I don't know what it is, but I really like that one. And then we have The Mark of Lucifer by Edith Pinheiro Green. We have Sweet Blood by Pat Graverson. I also really love this cover. It is Tangerine by Linda Crockett Gray. The Cormorant by Stephen Gregory. Demon's Eye by Stephen Gresham. Another peekaboo cover here. Let's find the way to do this here. Here we go. A very good one as well. Not quite as good as Sins of the Flesh, but it is still a good one. The Fraternity, Stephen Gresham. Evil Stalks the Night, Catherine Meyer Griffith. Pretty rare one here, The City, Richard Haig. There's another one called The Farm, and it is very hard to find. I have been looking for The Farm for quite a long time. This one was very hard to find as well, but The Farm is equally as difficult. Bloodworm, John Halkin. One of the best covers out there. Slime by John Halkin. Slither by John Halkin. Squelch by John Halkin. 3 great ones in a row there. The Sibling by Adam Hall. This one is a ARC copy, so it is an advanced reader copy. Special preview edition, not for sale. Great cover on this one as well. Keeper of the Children, William Hallahan, and it's an enjoyable book. Read this one last year as well. It's a fun read, and I recommend it. Burn through it real quick. It's an easy read. The Jade Unicorn, Jay Halpern. The Trident, Joel Hamill. The Wicker Man, Robin Hardy and Anthony Schaefer. And Night Games by Marilyn Harris. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, once again, remove this first row here so we can take a look at the back ones. All right, first up we have Rick Hatala, Dark Silence. We have Rick Hatala, Ghost Light. We have Rick Hatala, Little Brothers. Another Rick Hatala, The Mountain King. Rick Hatala again, Winter Wake. And now we have Douglas Hawk, The Devouring. Looks like it should be a peekaboo, but it's not. We have Douglas Hawk, The Occult Madonna. We have Lee Hawks, Night, Winter, and Death. Killer Pack by Albert Herbert and Roger Myers. On to James Herbert, we have Fluke. And I know these aren't in order by the series, but Domain by James Herbert. Great book. Highly, highly, highly recommend this trilogy. Lair, James Herbert. And The Rats by James Herbert. Super good trilogy. Really enjoyable. And you'll have fun with it. Sepulchre by James Herbert. Shrine by James Herbert. And The Spear by James Herbert. All right, let's move to the next shelf. Okay, carrying on with James Herbert, we have The Ghost and the Ghost of Sleeth, excuse me. James Herbert's The Fog, probably my favorite Herbert cover. So that's different than the other Fog I showed a moment ago. Survivor, James Herbert. And now moving on to Arthur Herzog, we have Earth Sound. I do also have Orca by Herzog, but I read that this year, so it's in my have been read pile on my shelves. The Swarm by Arthur Herzog. I believe that was made into a movie. We have Patrick by Keith Hetherington. Falling Angel by William Hjortsberg. The Gilgal by Henry Hotcherman. Great cover. Dark Advent by Brian Hodge. Good peekaboo on that one also. Barry Hoffman, Eyes of Prey. Barry Hoffman's Judas Eyes. Halloween, Gary Holloman. Great cover. Gerard Horner, Road to Hell. The Omen 2. I do have a copy of The Omen. I'm repairing it right now. This one needs a little repair as well. But The Omen 2, Joseph Howard. Sean Hudson, Breeding Ground. This is the sequel to Slugs. Sean Hudson, Erebus. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move this bottom shelf on this next one here, and we'll see the back ones. Okay, continuing on with Sean Hudson, we have Slugs. We have Spawn. And we have Paul Husson, The Keepsake. Robert James, Blood Mist. Jeremiah Jefferson, Voice of the Blood. Ruby Jean Jensen's Night Thunder. Anthony John, The Predator. Hounds of Dracula, Ken Johnson. Apparently that was a major motion picture as well. Asylum, William Johnson, also a movie tie-in. William Johnston, The Devil's Laughter. William Johnston as well, Them. Toy Cemetery, William Johnson. The Amityville Horror 2. This one is by John Jones. Grandfather, Ann Joseph. Love that cover. A Cold Blue Light, Marvin Kaye. All right, getting into some of my Brian Keens. We have Brian Keene, The Conquer Worms. Brian Keene, Dead Sea. Brian Keene, Ghoul. We have Ronald Kelly's Bloodkin. Ronald Kelly, Fear. Ronald Kelly, Something Out There. Now into some of the Jack Ketchums. Hide and Seek by Jack Ketchum. Off Season by Jack Ketchum. Jack Ketchum, Offspring. Okay, now we have The Spawn by L.J. Key. Witch Beast by Bernard King. Tower of Evil, James Kistner. The Shelter, Mary Kittredge and Kevin O'Donnell Jr. Andrew Clavin, The Animal Hour. Dark Gods by Ted Klein. The Ceremonies by Ted Klein. And finally for this shelf, The Disciple by Laird Koenig. All right, we have Bad Brains by Kathy Koja. This one has a disturbing peekaboo cover. It's an enjoyable book. So Bad Brains is pretty good. The Cipher by Kathy Koja, another great one from Koja. This was her first novel, and it's very enjoyable. The peekaboo cover. One of my favorite books right there that I've read recently. Demon's Fright. Great embossed cover on there. Penelope Banka Krebs. And we have The Hunt by James Howard Neustler. I think that's how you say it. I don't know. Embossed cover as well. Very cool. Burning Water by Mercedes Lackey. The Rivered House by F. Edwin Lamberth. The Night Runners by Joe Lansdale. Black Death by Carl Largent. The Lake by R. Carl Largent, another great cover. The Priestess by Frank Laria. Stephen Laws, Darkfall. Stephen Laws, Fear Me. Ghost Train by Stephen Laws. This one I'm excited to get to. Worm, The Worm by Stephen Laws. And now we're getting into the Richard Laymans. After Midnight. Carrying on with Richard Layman, we have Bite. Endless Night. Into the Fire. And I've only read one Richard Layman so far, and that was The Traveling Vampire Show. I just finished that recently. It was enjoyable, good writer. The Island by Richard Layman. Night in Lonesome October, Richard Layman. Out Are the Lights by Richard Layman. Resurrection Dreams by Richard Layman. Savage by Richard Layman. The Beast House by Richard Layman. The Cellar by Richard Layman. And The Woods Are Dark by Richard Layman. I also have a signed hardcover copy of Cuts by Richard Layman that's not down here. Vermin by Jean Lazuda. Great cover. This is all embossed right here. It's really satisfying to touch on that cover. A Killing Frost, Christopher Leach. And finally for this row, Tim Leben, Face. All right, we are into the Edward Lees. So this is City Infernal. We have Ghouls by Edward Lee. Messenger by Edward Lee. And I do have a bunch of other Edward Lee stuff. They're all trade paperbacks we'll get to in a little bit, or chapbooks. All right, Monstrosity, Edward Lee. Slither, Edward Lee. And we have Infernal Angel. I think this is the sequel to City Infernal. Succubi by Edward Lee. And The Golem by Edward Lee. Now we're on to Rooftops by Tom Lewis. Cool cover. The Stepford Wives by Ira Levin, author of Rosemary's Baby. Home, The Home by David Lippincott. The Sign of the Guardian, John Arthur Long. J. Edward Lord, Mandrake. Cool cover also. The Heirloom, Thomas Luke. And this should probably be over with my other Lumley stuff, but it's here right now. Clock of Dreams, Brian Lumley. And I do have a lot of all the Necroscope series and everything like that in a different section. And then we have Jonathan Mayberry, Bad Moon Rising. Move on to the other shelf. All right, so Jonathan Mayberry, Dead Man's Song. The Enigma of the Unknown, John Macklin. Blood Dreams, Jack McLean. Just Before Dark, Jack McLean. I like this one too. Cool embossed cover. Nice clean copy. Charnel House, Graham Masterton. We're into the Graham Masterton section here now. Death Dream, Graham Masterton. Death Trance, Graham Masterton. Manitou Blood. That's part of a series there. I don't have the rest of. Night Warriors, Graham Masterton. Cool embossed snakes on there. Picture of Evil, Graham Masterton. Prey, Graham Masterton. Revenge of the Manitou. So still part of that, I believe part of that Manitou Blood, but I don't have the Manitou. Devil in Gray, Graham Masterton. The House That Jack Built, Graham Masterton. And Walkers, Graham Masterton. All right, move on to the next one. All right, we have Catherine Montrose, The Wendigo Border. And we're into my McCammon section. So Bethany's Sin, Robert McCammon. Blue World, Robert McCammon. I just finished Stinger by Robert McCammon recently. It was very good. Boy's Life here by McCammon, which I've heard is extremely good. Gone South by McCammon. Mine by McCammon. Mystery Walk. A few different covers I've seen for this one, and this one I happen to like the most. Swan Song by McCammon, which I've also heard is very, very good. The Wolf's Hour by McCammon. They Thirst by McCammon. And Usher's Passing by McCammon. Great cover. Moving on to Unearthed by Ashley McConnell. One I'm very excited to get to here, hopefully soon, Event Horizon. This is the movie novelization. And this one's written by Philip Eisner. First up, we have The Amulet. This is Michael McDowell. Neat cover on that one. Dead City, Joe McKinney. Apocalypse of the Dead, Joe McKinney. Flesh Eaters, Joe McKinney. Mutated, Joe McKinney. I also have, that's not going to be up there, is Savage Dead. This one I have sitting off to the side right now. I was planning on starting this soon. Then I have Death Tour. This is by David Michael. Fun little book. Awesome cover. Good writing, easy read. Without Warning, Fern Michaels. Thunder Rise by G. Wayne Miller. Chain Gang by Rex Miller. Peekaboo. It's a good one. This is part of the series that contains Slob. And speaking of Slob, Rex Miller. Nightshade, Stanley Moore. Just awesome cover. Dark Journey, A.R. Moreland. Really cool cover also. The Totem by David Morrell. This is the author of First Blood, the movie that was turned into Rambo. And it is a very good book. Highly recommend that one as well. The only Friday the 13th book I own, unfortunately. I am on the lookout for all of them. This one is Mother's Day, and this is the first in the Camp Crystal Lake series by Eric Morse. There's quite a few, and they're very expensive. All of them are expensive, so looking out for those. Someday I'll get them. All right, Orphans by Ed Naha. Cool cover too. And finally for this one is Amusement Park. This one's by Robert Stewart Nathan. Let's move to the next one. First up we have After Rage, Yvonne Navarro. And we have Afterlife by Andrew Niederman. We have Curse by Andrew Niederman. We have Imp by Andrew Niederman. Night Howl by Andrew Niederman. And we have Pin by Andrew Niederman. Cool peekaboo cover. We have Immortal by Jason Michaels. We have The House of Thunder by Leigh Nichols. And this is Dean Koontz pseudonym. We have Hell Tracks by William Nolan. Just awesome cover. Love that cover. The Bogeyman, Maxine O'Callaghan. Darkling, Michael O'Rourke. The Spirit, Thomas Page. This is a reprinted version. The Last Gamble, Gene Paiva. The Grindle Nightmare, Quentin Patrick. The Image, Charlotte Paul. Master of the Undead, Hugo Paul. Finally, for this shelf, we have Hexes by Tom Piccirilli. We have Deceased by Tom Piccirilli. We have The Hidden by Sarah Pinborough. Garden of Evil by Edmund Plant. Funny, name's Plant. Has to do with plants, cool. Masks, a novel of terror by Bill Pronzini. Enigma by Owen Ratcliffe. Toyland by Florence Ramey. The Rage by Jack Ramsey. Kimberly Wrangle, Shadows. Kimberly Wrangle, The Homecoming. The Witching by Fritzen Ravenswood. Demon Within, Dana Reed. The Wereling, David Robbins. The Wrath, David Robbins. Plague Pit, Mark Ronson. I like this one a lot. Feral, Burton Rocher. And The Majon by Jeff Rovin. Let's move on to the next one. First up, we have The Devil's Churn, Christine Catherine Rush. Got a few John Russo's here. We have Daycare. Living Things. Night of the Living Dead. It's a good one. The Awakening, John Russo. The Lost Children, Brett Rutherford. Blood of the Impaler, Jeffrey Sackett. Stolen Souls, also Jeffrey Sackett. New Blood, Richard Salem. Anthony Shriek, Jessica Amanda Salmonson. Last Rites, Jorge Saralegui. Horrorween, Al Sarantonio. October, Al Sarantonio. Nathaniel, John Saul. Actually, I have a better copy of this somewhere. I have to find it. Punish the Sinners, John Saul. Finally, for this top shelf here, The God Project, John Saul. So more John Saul, When the Wind Blows. I do have a ton of John Saul spread out all over everywhere. They didn't all make it onto the shelf, and I also have a bunch in hardcover that we're not going to get to. Symphony, Adrian Savage. Kind of crazy cover. Dan Schmidt, The Demon Circle. Late at Night, William Schoell. And it's kind of an odd design. That's actually the design of the book. It looks like a cut remainder corner, but that's actually part of the book. All right, Spawn of Hell, William Schoell. Cool cover. Definitely beat up, but certainly readable. This one, David Shao, The Kill Riff. I just love that cover. Embossed. This one as well, Blood Farm, Sam Siciliano. That one's pretty clean. The Boogans, major motion picture. Not one that I've seen. All right, Steven Siebert, Cleopatra's Needle. Demon Shadows, Michael Sirota. Look how the skeleton's embossed on there. Summer of Night by Dan Simmons. I've also heard that one's really good. The Edisto Sanctuary by James Singleton. The Bridge, John Skipp and Craig Spector. Cool cover. A Nice Place to Live, Robert Sloan. And Eye of the Demon, Camille Bacon Smith. neat cover. All right. Moving on to the next one. Hey, first up we have Trinity Grove, David Van Meter Smith. We have George H. Smith, The Coming of the Rats. And then my limited collection of Guy and Smith stuff. We have Crab's Moon. Definitely want to find all of these at some point. That's in good shape. Locust, Guy and Smith. I think I like the other cover better. Just haven't found it yet. We have Night of the Crabs, Guy and Smith. And Water Rights, Guy and Smith. That's all I have by Guy and Smith, unfortunately. All right, we have The Ruins, Scott Smith. Great book. I thoroughly enjoyed it. If you like the movie The Ruins, you'll like the book. Dark Dreaming, Gene Snyder, with tape all over the front and marks and stickers and all kinds of stuff. The Mind War, or just Mind War, excuse me, by Gene Snyder. Tomb 7 by Gene Snyder. Screenplay by Douglas Sosby. This one's pretty valuable. Cool, embossed everywhere there. Berserker by Frank Spearing. Black Dawn, D.A. Stern. And might be one of the only covers I've seen do this. Has a double layer. Kind of cool. The Horror from the Tombs, Florence Stevenson. The Possession of Joel Delaney, Ramona Stewart. Shadow Show, Brad Strickland. Billy by Whitley Strieber. And Black Magic by Whitley Strieber. I do have some other Striebers floating around. All right, another Whitley Strieber. We have Breakthrough. I do have Communion and some other ones around, like I said. All right, Miss Deming and the Mythical Beast by Faith Sullivan. Raven by S.A. Swinyarsky. Not sure if that's how you say it. Charmed Life by Bernard Taylor. Blood Red Dawn by Karen Taylor. Prodigal by Melanie Tem. The Tides by Melanie Tem. The Deceiver by Melanie Tem. Blood Heritage, Sherry S. Tepper. She wrote a lot of fantasy as well as sci-fi. Phantom by Thomas Tessier. The Wilds by Claude Tools. Chumash by Gary Thompson. Nightblood by James Thompson. Deadly Nature by V.M. Thompson. Great, this cover's awesome. The embossing on it is fantastic. And Eternity by Tamara Thorne. Okay, Tamara Thorne, the Forgotten. Tamara Thorne, the Sorority Eve. Tamara Thorne, Samantha, part of the Sorority series. As Evil Does, John Tiggs. Cool cover on that one. Another cool John Tiggs cover, The Book of the Dead. Monster by John Tiggs. Unto the Altar by John Tiggs. We have Killer by Peter Tonkin. Just really doesn't want to zoom in on that one, huh? Thomas Tryon, The Night of the Moonbow. Thomas Tryon, The Other. On Dangerous Ground, Lamar Underwood. I believe this is the source material for Cocaine Bear, if I remember correctly. Could be wrong. Someone will tell me. The Abyss, Steve Vance. Not a peekaboo. Could have totally been a great one. The Hyde Effect, Steve Vance, excuse me. Dead Streets, Tim Wagner. And Dark War, Tim Wagner. Dying Breath, Robert Walker. Sub-Zero, Robert Walker. Kiss of the Vampire, Lee Weathersby. The Devil's Auction, Robert Weinberg. The Savior, Marvin Werlin and Mark Werlin. Out of the Night, Patrick Wallen. Star of Ill Omen, Dennis Wheatley. The Resurrectionist, Wrath James White. Moon of the Wolf, Leslie Whitten. Unfortunately, this one is pretty beat up. Mastery, Kelly Wilde. The Suiting, Kelly Wilde. Straw Dogs by Gordon Williams. Azarius by Sidney Williams. Second Chance, Chet Williamson. Signed copy. Chet Williamson, Soulstorm. Death Angel, J.N. Williamson. Death Coach, J.N. Williamson. All right, moving on to the last row. Some more J.N. Williamson, The Haunt. Direct Descendant, Charles Wilson. Reprisal, F. Paul Wilson. The Touch, F. Paul Wilson. I also have The Keep. It's in my book press right now. I'm trying to straighten it out. It had a little curl to it. Crooked Tree, Robert Wilson with a great peekaboo. What? His head's a little detached. Okay. Amy Girl, Barry Wood. Doll's Eyes, Barry Wood. Light Source, Barry Wood. Killing Gift, Barry Wood. Wolf Isle, Jack Woods. The Sendai, William Woolfolk. Blood Brothers, T. Lucian Wright. A Manhattan Ghost Story, T. M. Wright. Nursery Tale, T. M. Wright. Strange Seed, T. M. Wright. And Children of the Island, T. M. Wright. T. M. Wright, House on Orchard Street. T. M. Wright, The Island. T. M. Wright, The Waiting Room. This one's got some water standing on it, unfortunately. And T. M. Wright, The Woman Next Door. Day of the Triffids, John Wyndham. Very enjoyable book. Classic. Highly recommend reading that one as well. Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough, A Flame in Byzantium. Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough, Blood Games. Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough, Dead and Buried. Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough, Messages from Michael. Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough, Nomads. Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough, Path of the Eclipse. Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough, The Palace. And this last little section I had left over because I was going to move stuff around to try to add books in as I got them, and I ended up just putting my Richard Matheson's there. So here's Richard Matheson, A Stir of Echoes. That was one of my favorite books I read last year. Hell House by Richard Matheson. I personally think this is better than House on Haunted Hill, so if you liked that one, I would recommend reading this one and give it a shot, see if it's better for you as well. I Am Legend, also by Richard Matheson. Extremely enjoyable. Highly recommend if you like the Will Smith edition, the movie. This is different, but it's very good. So I encourage you to read that. If you can't tell, Matheson's one of my favorite authors. Hunted Past Reason, Richard Matheson. This one I have not read yet. And The Shrinking Man, very good book as well. This one I have another copy also in my have been read this year, so this one's kind of a different copy that I have, but very good book. All right, now what I'm going to do is put books here that couldn't make it on the shelf. So these are books that I have either acquired after I did the shelving, or they were in my room, or they were in a TBR list or something like that where they weren't available when I put everything together in order. So I'm going to have to add these in at some point and make more room on the shelves. So first up, Timothy Moriarty, Vampire Nights. Under the Fang, edited by Robert McCammon. It's an anthology collection. The Boogeyman by B.W. Batten. Drought by Ralph Hayes. The Well by Michael Sirota. Skin Trade, featuring Stephen King, Dan Simmons, George R. R. Martin. Introduction by Douglas Winter on that one. Into some of the year's best horror series that I have. Carl Edward Wagner. Another one. 21. Number 20. number 19, number 17, number 16. I have more of the year's best, but they're in a different part of the pile. So James Herbert, Nobody True. Rick Hatala, Nightstone. Phil Rickman, Candle Night. Robert Bloch, Ladies' Day, and This Crowded Earth, 2 in 1. And I have a bunch of these 30 Days of Night, so Eternal Damnation, Rumors of the Undead, the movie tie-in, and if you know me, you know I really enjoy 30 Days of Night. I have all the graphic novels and the comics as well, and this one's written by Tim Levin. So Light of Day and Immortal Remains. Another one by Leigh Nichols, Shadow Fires. It's Dean Koontz again. And I have a signed copy of Red Church by Scott Nicholson. A signed copy of Manstopper by Douglas Borton. A signed copy of Lowland Rider by Chet Williamson. Sorry, I mentioned one earlier. Second Chance was the signed one. It's not that one, it's this one. I was thinking of the wrong one, excuse me. So Lowland Rider, this one signed. Breeder by Douglas Clegg. The Ridge by Lisa Cantrell. In Silent Graves by Gary Bronbeck. I think I'm missing a copy of Mr. Hands by Bronbeck too. I don't remember showing that one. The Best Horror Stories from the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction. This is Volume 1. The Best Horror Stories from the Magazine of Science Fiction. This is Volume 2. Year's Best Horror Stories, once again. This is 14. Year's Best Horror Stories, Volume 12. Year's Best Horror Stories, number 11. Year's Best Horror Stories, 6. Year's Best Horror Stories, 3. Year's Best Horror Stories, 2. Year's Best Horror Stories, number 1. I have Dark Miracle by Stephen George. Year's Best Horror Stories, number 7. The Doll with Opal Eyes, Jean DeWeese. Earthbound by Logan Swanson. This is Richard Matheson. Sea Trial by Frank DeFelitta. I'm really looking forward to reading this one. Personal Darkness by Tanith Lee. Horror Show by David Dark. Ants by Peter Tremaine. Death Walker, Patrick Wallen. Cut Up by William Cross. Ghost Boy by Gene Simon. Hell Train by Bill Garnett. Excited for that one too. Something about trains. Nightfall by John Ferris. Hobgoblin by John Coyne. Zombie by Peter Tremaine. Alternate cover of Zombie by Peter Tremaine. Among the Missing, Richard Lehman. Dreadful Tales by Richard Lehman. The Savior by Marvin Werlin and Mark Werlin, which I have the alternate copy that I already showed you a little while ago. This is the alternate to that one. So I will probably not keep both of these, but just so you can see them. I had to readjust there. Sorry. Kill River. This is by Cameron Robique. This is the other part of that series by Tanith Lee, and this is an ARC reader, so advanced reading copy. Cold Shocks by Tim Sullivan. The Sad Moon. That last one was edited by Tim Sullivan. This is Third from the Sun. This is a short story collection by Richard Matheson. New Terrors, edited by Ramsey Campbell. The last one was New Terrors 2, excuse me. This is New Terrors 1 by Ramsey Campbell. House Shutters, edited by Martin Greenberg. Nest of Nightmares, reprinted, short story collection by Lisa Tuttle. Shadows of Fear, short story collection, edited by David Hardwell. Greystone Bay, edited by Charles Grant. Weird Shadows from Beyond, edited by John Carnell. This one I think is classified as sci-fi, but still very cool. Fine Frights, Stories That Scared Me, selected by Ramsey Campbell. Borderlands 2, edited by Thomas Monteleone. Nightmare by Willow Davis Roberts. Frights, edited by Kirby McCauley. Soft and Others, from F. Paul Wilson, collection of short stories. Brass by Robert Coney. Masters of Terror, Volume 1, William Hope Hodgson, edited by Peter Tremaine. Charles Grant, Dialing the Wind. Cool cover on that. 14 Vicious Valentines, with an intro by Isaac Asimov, edited by Rosalind Greenberg, Martin Greenberg, and Charles Waugh. Fortress by Gabriel Lord. Dan Simmons, Love, Death. Treehouse by Victor Mullen. Just look at this cover. Oh yeah, that's good. That's real good. Oh man, what are you focusing on right here? What? There we go. This is awesome. Undertow by Drake Douglas. Death Song by Drake Douglas and Stephen Kent. Brian Lumley's complete series here, the Dream series I think it's called. So Ship of Dreams, Hero of Dreams, Man, Moon of Dreams, and Iced Dark Side, edited by John Pellin. 3 of the Shock books by Richard Matheson, so Shock 1, Shock 2, Shock 3. They're all short story collections, and I'm very excited to get to these. I'm sure I've read a few of the shorts out of here, since I've read a couple different short story collections by Matheson already. I'm sure some of them ended up mixed throughout different collections. Night Visions, The Hellbound Heart is included in this one, edited by George R. Martin. And The Boneyard, with an intro by Dean Koontz, and has F. Paul Wilson, Sherry Tepper, Ray Garden. All right, so sorry to scare you jumping back in here, the face you weren't expecting. So that's all of my horror paperbacks for the most part. I do have some that I've read that are in my have been read section, as well as some that are in my room. There's a few floating around all over. So that's the majority of them though. I'm gonna go ahead and stop this video here, and I'm gonna do another video of all the trade paperbacks and the hardcovers that I have that are horror or independent authors, things like that. So just because there's quite a few of those, it's gonna take a little while, and this is already pretty long. So appreciate you guys, and look forward to hearing what you have to say about these horror books, as well as I'm sure there's many authors that write under pseudonyms you guys are going to let me know about, things like that, or that I missed, and maybe some suggestions of other ones that I should get, some other horror books. I mean, that'd be nice. All right, well, I really do appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.